Hello, my name is Ben.
And my name's Andrew.
And we are your hosts of the Too Vague podcast this week. One word, two hosts, stories, trivia, and video games. Andrew's joining me in, the virtual studio today.
The satellite office in Clackamas, Oregon.
I would go with Truth or Consequences, New Mexico.
So that's not where I am, though.
I know that's not where you are, but I mean, if I was making up a place where we have the home office.
Well, the home office, that's over at your place. And the field office here, down by Oregon Highway 224. Out by where the Clackamas High School used to be, but it's not Clackamas High School anymore. So that's where we are.
Formerly Clackamas High School. Okay.
It's Alder Creek Middle School, but that's as much of a geographical clue as I'm going to give anybody.
Okay. Okay.
I don't want those middle schoolers messing with stuff in my yard.
Yeah, this is true. It's all about triangulation.
Yeah.
This week, we're going to be talking about the word control.
Control.
But before we get into that, what have you been up to lately? Anything exciting? Getting ready for school?
Getting ready for school. Well, I got 2 more weeks, but I've been working summer school.
Do you do like Paul Rudd does in Ghostbusters Afterlife? Did you see Ghostbusters Afterlife?
I did. I forgot what Paul Rudd did.
He puts on movies like Cujo.
Oh, right.
Lets the kids watch him while he's, doing whatever he wants to.
Yeah, well.
This one's called Christine. You guys are going to love it.
The program I'm working in, it's called Extended School Year, and it's really for kids who have a lot of trouble breaking with the routine of being in school.
Okay.
So just trying to keep the routines up.
Oh, okay.
So I'm working with some significant disabilities in the classroom. These kids that I'm working with, I would say, have there's some definite intellectual disabilities going on. I mean, there's autism, but there's
other things.
There is the truth that some people need a lot of help their whole lives long, and so. Okay. Yeah, I've been working with some high school students who are in high school because the law says everybody gets to go to high school and a free and appropriate public education until your 21st birthday.
Right. So then this is a special education sort of...
Yeah, it's a special education setting, yeah.
Yeah. And does that change when you go into the regular school year?
In the regular school year, I work in a regular elementary school, so... I'm supporting special ed students, but not with the same kind of severity of needs.
Okay.
So that's more like helping out students who are able to access grade level curriculum and, helping them out in this. My summer gig is totally different.
Okay. Well, that's what you've been up to.
That's what I've been up. No, that's not all I've been up to. I built some shelves. I finished up a comic book last week. I read a whole comic book. No, I wrote an illustrated and printed up a little mini comic because there was this little artist alley fest in Portland.
I saw your tweet on that.
I went to that. I tabled at it and I sold just enough stuff to make my table money back.
Okay.
I met a cool guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy that was sitting next to me, but cool. He was an interesting dude. He was sort of like a Bottle Rocket era Owen Wilson kind of vibe going on with him.
Oh, okay.
He was real fun.
Did he say wow like that or no?
Kind of. He just had a sort of twang in his voice that sort of reminded me of Owen Wilson, and then he just had an interesting getup. He was there just to draw sketches.
Okay.
But he comes in and he sets up and he's got a manual typewriter that he sets up on his table, and he's got a jar of peanuts in the shell.
Okay.
And he's just asking, everybody's like, hey, you want a peanut? And I'm like, you've got a style. And I don't know. He was cool.
Okay. Hey, you want a peanut?
He was going by spoon. Yeah, I got from him a lovely picture. He really wanted to draw a picture of Christopher Walken, so I commissioned a sketch of Christopher Walken from him because
very cool.
Because that was fun. So
you need to send me that.
I'll send you
because I want a picture of that. I mean, anyone who can sketch Christopher Walken, pretty impressive.
I mean, it was like a 7-minute sketch. That was the deal. He did them in 7 minutes. So
okay.
I mean, it's not it's a Christopher Walken sketch.
Okay.
I'll send you a digitized version of it.
I always overthink my Christopher Walken impression, and I just don't do it very well. He's one of those guys that doing an impression of him is more about the timing, you know?
Oh, yeah. It's all about the timing, yeah.
Okay, well, being at the table show and doing your comic.
Yeah, that was good. So, yeah, I finished my comic up just in time to take it to there, and that was fun. And now I'm going to try to, like, sell it or something at actual stores.
Okay, so was that the one that I was in? My show. You had an advertisement for the show.
Yes, that's the one that I put the advertisement for the show in with the QR code and everything.
Nice.
So it's not just a comic, it's sort of like a calling card. And,
yeah. Well, that explains the uptick of one viewer. I guess. I don't know.
That is my influence.
Yeah.
I can get one listener in.
It's excellent. One listener. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay by me.
I'm like, I tell people, you got to hear about what I did in Italy.
Yeah.
You got to hear about the Italian branch of the Kiss Army.
And Pringles.
And Pringles. We could do a follow-up on Pringles. I'm prepared. We're doing Control.
Unless you have to control your impulse of eating. Did you actually try the suspicious stew flavored Pringle?
Well, I didn't try it yet. I have it. I saved it for the podcast. Should I try it now?
I would say try it now. We need to find out what that is.
So I'm gonna try to record the sound of the can opening.
Okay.
And then now I gotta tear off the little foil thing. Oh yeah, that's gonna be some great audio for you. I can tell. All right. Now I can't send the smell through it smells vaguely of flavor.
Vaguely of flavor?
It smells like, like broth.
Okay.
On a potato
chip. Like bouillon.
Like bouillon. It smells a little bouillon-y.
Okay.
I'll give you some ASMR crunches here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it tastes like a Pringle that soaked up some bouillon. I don't know. It's savory, a little oniony going on in there, and
so it is actually stew flavored.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's suspicious stew. I guess that's a Minecraft thing.
Yes.
But I think suspicious stew. I think it's like some shady guy named Stewart just messing around by the Circle K or something.
Yeah, but it's not that.
Don't buy any of the wacky tobacco from suspicious stew.
No.
I also picked up some pizza flavored Pringles.
Oh, you know what? Also, when you eat the suspicious stew, in Minecraft, you get a buff.
You get a buff.
Yeah, some sort of buff.
All right.
You probably now have a +1 in oration, or I don't know.
+1 in oration. That's good. Yeah. Should I see what kind of buff I get with the pizza flavored Pringles, or?
I don't think they come with a buff.
I'm opening up this one too. I had no self control when I went to the store and I bought 3 cans of weird flavored Pringles because we talked about that before.
Right.
And pizza flavored is. It's got a vague tomatoey flavor.
Yeah.
Vaguely oregano. It's you could close your eyes and think maybe it's like a pizza.
I mean, how much cheese? There's no real cheese flavor. It's just tomato and.
I'm not really feeling a lot of cheese on there.
Yeah.
But let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really have much of a cheese flavor. That's a fail on that.
Okay.
But then we got the scorched and wavy Pringles. This episode's sponsored by Pringles, right?
No.
I got some scorching wavy loaded nachos.
Okay.
Because it was that can was next to the other cans. I was like, this is. I was like, what, loaded nachos. Now, like, I take the thing out of the hand. It's a wavy one, so it's a little bit wavy.
Right.
Instead of just your regular slim Pringle profile. So
does it make it more structurally stable?
Feels a little sturdier, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would hold up in a rainstorm, but
okay.
Don't switch them out for your roofing tiles.
Exactly. I mean,
this one smells scorch. It smells scorching. I smelled it, and my nose is like,
ouch.
It's got capsicum in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm expecting that, but it doesn't look like it's loaded with anything.
Okay.
Even though it says it's loaded nachos.
Right.
It's just a chip with flavor powder on it.
But yeah. So it's loaded nacho flavor, not loaded.
Like I was like expecting, am I going to open this up? And I was going to be like, chiles and
big dust cloud of
big
of
dust
spice.
cloud, tomatoes, dust cloud of spice. Yeah. It's I see. Okay. That actually tastes like kind of like a really dry nacho. Like you got a bit of a cheese flavor on there, and definitely some sliced jalapenos, like from the movie theater. That it's that level of nacho.
Okay. It's movie theater nachos, not like homemade loaded nachos.
No, but yeah, I think calling these loaded is, well, that's a stretch, but
okay.
You know what? It's not a disappointment, but I'm not really sure it's a scorching. In my mind, this satisfies my expectation for flame medium.
Right.
But
right.
I was like, this really feels medium. It doesn't feel scorching.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
The flame.
It was
medium.
A flavor experiment. And now I should have gotten a can of regular Pringles to be my control Pringles.
Yeah.
But I forgot that part.
Right.
Yeah. And also to reflect the word control and the scientific method of all this. But
exactly. And we come full circle.
See, I didn't know where I was going to go with this bit, but I knew it was going to be worth it.
It's a great bit, man. I mean, you'd also have to get the normal wavy chips because we need the comparison about how the corrugation of the chips.
Yeah, they need to build something out of it.
I mean, well, there's the building, so there's the structural stability part. But I mean, I think
the corrugation. Yeah.
Does it make the flavor better? Does it change the flavor? Corrugation.
Well, it's really hard to tell through the powder flavoring. Yeah, you're right. We would need
through the flame medium flavored scorching hot wavies.
Yeah, but I do kind of think that the waving Pringles, the wavy Pringles, they would be better for dipping.
Right.
Because like an actual Pringle, you put any tension on it and it
just crumbles.
It just crumbles. I think the wavy ones are a little bit, they're engineered to handle a load.
Right. The normal Pringles embarrass very easily.
They embarrass very easily.
Yes, very easily. And then they crumble. Wow. So I think we found a new bit, a new flavor every time you're on the show, maybe. I mean, not three. Not three. Three's going.
Not three.
Yeah.
Three's too
I don't
much.
know. Do you want to do three every episode? I mean.
Oh, I don't think so. I think I got a little nutty. I went a little out of control when I went shopping.
What's the payoff of this really going to be?
It doesn't have to be Pringles. I just had that stuck in my head. Maybe. I
do think the Pringles, I mean, if we get some unique flavors, we definitely need to sample them at some point.
If the Pringles people are listening to us,
yes,
and they would like me to sample Pringles on the podcast,
yes,
they can find my email address. They can get out to me. Yeah,
check out Andrew at Partly Robot. You send an email to him.
Send me a DM on the Instagrams or the Threads. I'm on Threads now.
Oh,
yeah, it's the Instagram version of Twitter, but not really.
Okay. So that's what it is? It's just Instagram version of...
Yeah, well, it's like Meta decided to make a Twitter analog sort of.
Okay.
But they sort of brought it out as like an add-on to Instagram somehow.
Okay.
Like if you already have an Instagram, then if you go download the Threads app, then it just populates your stuff from Instagram and you don't have to sign up separately.
Okay. But I mean, it's just the same things that you put on Instagram in a different format, or is there...
Yeah, well, it's more like you can put in your, 3-sentence comment with a link and...
Links. That seems to be the most important part to me.
You can put in links. Yeah, that's it. You can put in links. So you can't do that in Instagram so much. So
maybe I'll switch over to Threads if it's close to what Twitter does. I don't think it's available for my automatically publish sort of option.
Not yet.
In Podbean, but maybe.
Yeah, but
all I know is that Twitter is off. Twitter's off the list.
Twitter's off the list?
Well, because of those changes he made for the I don't quite understand what it is, but it's some sort of a rate that you send data, and it has a problem with sending these things or accessing them through Podbean or whatever it is. They can't post because of it. So whatever it is that's the problem, our friend Lon put in there. It was Threads. That's a good one. Maybe I'll switch over. I'll switch over to Threads.
Maybe you can check it out. And Twitter, I guess, is X now because
yes, it is. But when I get emails about my posts and things, it says X, formerly known as Twitter.
Oh, okay.
So they're not embracing it yet, I guess. Okay, allow me to criticize for just one moment. Taking something that has an established brand that people recognize easily, and then you just change it, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, from a business standpoint, unless you're trying to rebrand for a reason. But this, it doesn't seem like there's a reason other than X looks cool.
Yeah, I don't know what the reason is. I found out about it and then I was like, oh, I guess that's happening. I used to have the partly robot handle on Twitter, and then I got annoyed and canceled it, and then I realized, oh, maybe I don't want to delete my Twitter, but it was too late, so they won't let me have it back. I suppose if I paid somebody money, I could have it back, but I don't want to.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know if it's worth it or not.
That's the thing.
There's enough hate on the internet as it stands. I'm not judging. Maybe I'm judging a little, but it seems like there's a lot of negative stuff on Twitter, like lots, a lot more than on other social media platforms. But
I think Threads has something where you can actually block a user before they've ever interacted with you.
Oh, wow.
So if you see somebody's being a jerk on somebody else's thread, you can be like, oh, I don't want that guy messing with me. And you can just like block him already.
That's interesting.
So
yeah.
So I think that was a tool designed to just sort of prevent the super toxic stuff from happening.
Well, I mean, it's not going to prevent the super toxic stuff from happening, but it is going to stop you from seeing, or the consumer from seeing the toxic stuff. It's still going to go on.
It's still going to go on, but the consumer has a little bit more control.
Correct.
See how I brought it back?
Look at that again. We did it again with the control. I didn't really say what I've been doing, but you know what? All I've been doing is just getting excited about going to PAX this year, and then also still playing Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm going to probably see and have some interviews going on in PAX with various games, so watch out for that. That should be fun for you and your listeners, or my listeners, or our listeners.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and maybe do some live stuff. Maybe do some Instagram lives. Have you done any of those Instagram lives?
No, I haven't done those.
Is it?
I haven't done them.
Okay.
But it's like I watched one once.
Yeah, and I'm still really confused with Instagrams, like what's a reel and what's on your story and what's on your. I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
TikTok is a little less. Is it? I mean, is it that confusing? I don't. You know what? Let's not talk about TikTok. I don't want to TikTok.
We can both acknowledge that TikTok exists.
Yes.
And
it's a thing. So we'll just stick with Instagram and maybe Threads coming up. But anyway, that's what I've been doing.
There's a Blue Sky supposed to be coming around. They didn't send me my invite yet. So
Blueski?
Blueski.
Yeah.
The old Blueski. I heard about that. Some people are on Blueski, but not me. So I don't know. I don't know if it's any good. Hey, Jack Dorsey, you listen to all the podcasts, right? Send me a Blueski invite.
Yeah, Blueski. We're gonna Blueskis.
2 Blueskis, please. We want to class up the Blueski.
Over here, 2 Blueskis to go with our flame medium.
Loaded nachos, yeah.
Let's go with the definition. Let's start with
right, the definition. Oh, yeah, I've given examples, but we didn't define it.
Yeah, I'm going to go this time. I'm going to mix it up. I think I'm going to go with the Merriam-Webster definition and not the Oxford definition. Keep the show spicy.
Keep it spicy.
Control. We got a verb and a noun. We'll start with the verb. To exercise restraining or directing influence over. To have power over. To reduce the incidence or severity of, especially to innocuous level. To incorporate suitable controls in, and then we've got an archaic one here, which is to check, test, or verify by evidence or experiments. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And then to go with the noun, an act or instance of controlling, power or authority to guide or manage, skill in the use of a tool, instrument, technique, or artistic medium, which is interesting to me because I don't think I've ever heard it that way.
I think I've heard someone has good control of their instrument or
control of their strokes,
brush control. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not the first word I would go to when I'm thinking about the arts, but I can see.
Yeah, I can see where it relates. The regulation of economic activity, especially by government directive.
Interest rates.
Yes. The ability of a baseball pitcher to control the location of a pitch within a strike zone.
That's a very specific definition.
That's very specific. And then we've got restraint, reserve. And then we go with the control as it relates to experiments, like we were talking about with the Pringles. One, such as an organism, culture, or group that is part of a control experiment and is used as a standard of comparison. It says often used before a noun, which is, control group. That's what I'm guessing. Personality or spirit believed to actuate the utterances of performances of a spiritualist medium. Wow. Those are words.
That's a specific old-timey definition.
Yeah. It doesn't even say old-timey.
Yeah, it should say in parentheses old-timey.
Exactly. Kind of like the archaic one.
I'm going to subtweet the Merriam-Webster dictionary right now.
Okay.
Is subtweeting even a thing anymore? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't even know. It's sub-Xing now.
It's sub-Xing. That sounds like something I don't know about. Yeah.
A personality or spirit believed to actuate the utterances of performances of a spiritualist medium. I just needed to say that in one complete sentence so I could feel better about myself. Or less commonly, control key. One that controls, such as a device or mechanism used to regulate or guide the operation of a machine, apparatus, or system. There's also an organization that directs space flight. It's another very oddly specific one.
A control is an organization that directs space flight.
Yes, like ground control to Major Tom to ground control.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so those are our definitions according to Merriam and Webster. So, what is the first thing you think of when you think of the word control, Andrew?
Okay, when I think of this phrase, the limits of control, because not only is it the title of a kind of cool Jim Jarmusch movie, but it's a kind of movie that's like Rotten Tomatoes is on the fence on whether it's a good movie or a bad movie, but
gotcha.
I like it. But I watched it and there's that phrase kind of like hung in my mind and it was helpful for me at a point where I felt like I didn't have a lot of control about what was going on around me, like in a workplace or whatever's going on, and then realize, okay, there's limits to what I can control. So not be so worried about the stuff that's outside my control and like focus more on what I can do with what I can control. So, that's a very thinky response to control.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's one of those things where if I had a nickel for every time I told someone they should stop worrying because that thing is beyond their control, it's not something that you can actually do something about. So if you want to focus on something about your situation, those are the things you should be concerned with. You shouldn't worry about them necessarily. You just make that plan and go ahead with it. Change the plan along the way. But that's how you exert control over a situation, is the things that you can impact or change.
Yeah, exactly. And so that helped me. It is kind of like mindfulness, about being focused on where you are in the moment instead of that's one thing I thought about control. What about you?
I think of a couple of random things.
Yeah.
Hence the vague podcast.
It's pretty vague. That's true.
How much do you know about Janet Jackson?
I know that she was on Different Strokes.
Yeah, she was.
And she had some famous brothers.
Yes. She was the youngest of 10 children.
Jeez.
Yep. If you read her background and stories, she wasn't really into making music like the rest of the family members were. She was wanted to do acting more than that. And there was a little bit of friction between her and her family, i.e. father and brothers, which ended up with her letting go her father on the producing of her second album, which she maintains that she was kind of like forced to do against her will, or felt like she was forced to do it against her will. So, hence, her third album that she did by herself was called Control. And there was a song that she, So nice. That was the third album that she was released February 4th, 1986 on A&M Records. That's one of those albums that I remember, like, What Have You Done For Me Lately? That song. Nasty. Control. When I Think of You. She basically hit it out of the park with that one and kind of continued her own self-expression. I mean, I just found it interesting that she really didn't want to be in music at the beginning.
Yeah.
One of those things when you were born, you're kind of born into the wrong family.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because some people want to go into music and their family are like,
oh yeah, it's the opposite, right?
Go, what the hell's wrong with you? Get a real job. I mean, well, she wanted to go into a different branch of the performing arts, I guess. But
this is why in our utopia we're going to match children with parents.
There we go.
You're not going to have your own children. You're going to be matched with the right children.
Your child will be profiled.
Exactly.
At birth. You can tell everything at birth.
The album remained on the Billboard 200 chart for over 2 years. That's kind of interesting. And then also certified 5 times platinum and has sold more than 10 million copies worldwide. Grammy nominated, so on and so forth. Pretty interesting that that was one of the defining records of her career. And once she was able to do what she wanted to do, it kind of took off. And it sounds like she became the artist that she was because of that. So knowing the first 2 albums and sort of the break from her father as the manager, calling this album Control kind of has multiple levels, right?
Right.
She's taking her own control of her situation because she felt like maybe she was under, maybe she was under control. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should call her up.
Call her up. Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's got an in with Pringles, so maybe we can do a double duty on
if
this
I haven't
guy.
Burned that bridge already.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some fantastic things with flavors that Pringles is doing. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking.
Flavor profiles. Let me just say. Scorchin' medium.
Flame medium, yeah.
I think it would be hilarious if it was scorching medium.
I got 3 cans of Pringles and I gotta eat them.
Oh,
okay.
You don't have to eat them by the end of the show, Andrew.
I don't actually.
You can put the cap on them and you can just set them aside.
Yeah, I'll do that
for later snacking enjoyment.
Yeah, actually, it would be a terrible show to just have me crunching on chips the whole time.
Well, I don't know. Not for people who are into that sort of thing with
that's
the ASMR stuff.
True.
I mean, so yeah, that's one thing I think of. Do you think of anything else with Control?
Another thing that I think of with Control is that there's this sci-fi trilogy by Jeff VanderMeer called like the Southern Reach trilogy.
Okay.
The first book in it was Annihilation, which I believe got made into a motion picture. Natalie Portman. Yeah, I didn't watch the movie because I read the book and then I liked the book and then I started watching the movie one time and I decided that I didn't need to. I don't know.
Spoiler alert, she's an alien.
Spoiler alert. What? Is that what the movie is? Oh, man.
I don't know.
I didn't see the movie because the book was such a mindfuck that I was like, I don't know if I'll be happy with whatever the movie does. So, yeah. So the Natalie Portman character is like the main character in the first book of the trilogy.
Right.
And like, each book, the first one's Annihilation, the second book is Authority, and the third book is Acceptance.
Okay.
In the second book, the main character, for most of the book, his name is just Control.
Okay.
He's basically the sort of fixer guy that's sent in to try to fix this huge messed up situation. The main premise is like somewhere in the South, I can't remember, I think it's Florida, somewhere on the coast of Florida. Several years in the past, this weird phenomenon happened where this huge zone, which they call like Area X, like a big like force field went around this whole area.
Okay.
And nobody knew why, but it messed up a lot of stuff, and people that were caught on the inside, you know, it was a big mystery, and the government was trying to figure it out without panicking people, but since they couldn't figure out what was going on, there was a big hush-hush about it. It turns out some really weird Lovecrafty stuff was going on inside there.
Lovecrafty horror, horrific sort of.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, yeah. So it turns out for years the government had been sending these military expeditions in to try to get information, and either nobody would come back from the expedition or they'd come back kind of messed up and weird.
Right.
As one does.
So you said Control.
Control was the name of the main character in the second book. And so like in the first book, things go sideways and something happens. Yeah, I don't want to do spoiler alerts. In the second book, a new director is sent in, and the new director, it's like from his point of view, and he's there to kind of like fix the mess that has happened.
Right.
Under the watch of the previous director.
The director of what?
Oh, the director of the scientists and the quasi-military guys that are trying to figure out what's the deal with Area X.
So scientists and military.
Scientists and military. And that's the one thing in the expeditions that would go in, they would have people that were certain specific roles. So they would be, I remember in the first book, the main character is the biologist.
Right.
That's the name that she has. She's a member of one of the expeditions that goes through the weird gate. Like there's this one spot where they can go through a gate and go into Area X. On that team, one of the team members was a biologist, and one was the anthropologist, and one was there was one of them that was more of a military person, and that was just basically their heavy to fight off whatever needed to be fought off. But
right.
But everything was like so mysterious and shrouded in, you don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a really cool story that like comes together from a lot of different ways. And so, but one of the cool things is that, yeah, the second book has a totally different character's point of view that sort of reflects back, takes place after the first book, following up on what the hell happened there. And,
but then also exposing more.
Exploring more. And like the main character actually has a regular name that I forgot what it was, but he insists on going by Control. That's like his nickname. And
okay.
And he reports to somebody who their codename is The Voice. So it's kind of got a bit of like a spy tone to it in the second book. And like,
does he have a shoe phone?
Does he have a shoe phone? I forget.
Okay.
No, but there is something very important about cell phones in there, or different kind of phones, and his office gets bugged, or he's looking for bugs. So there's actually something to that angle. Yeah.
A shoe phone, as in Get Smart. They were Control. That was the name of their group that
dude.
Don Adams was.
This goes deeper now. Now I got to reread those books or watch Get Smart.
Probably both.
Both. Yes.
Yeah. And the third book, it wraps it all up, or does it leave a lot of things open?
The third book does sort of explain what happened, and then it takes you off a Lovecraftian precipice into the abyss. But yeah, sure, it wraps it up.
So a happy book.
You come out of it feeling like, oh yeah, life's great. No, it's called Acceptance. So that one's all about accepting. Yeah, and I think like Control is one of the main characters in that book. The third book sort of switches between, main characters to get a more deeper view of what's going on.
Right.
But I think acceptance is about accepting that you don't really have control over any of this.
It's kind of funny that the guy who wants to be called Control has no control, right?
He has no control, but he's like inherently a control freak. And he's sent in to try to get control of a situation, but he can't because it's beyond that. There's layers.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was one of the things. That was probably one of the things that when you pitched all the words, I was like, ooh, control.
What I have, this is a little more scientific, and we talked about the concept, right?
Yeah, the control group, so you can compare your measurements to, yeah.
Correct. I saw an article recently. Arizona goes through some very interesting weather this time of year called the monsoons. Tucson, Arizona does. I think Phoenix goes through something similar on the same schedule, yeah.
It's the same basic weather systems sort of doing similar stuff, yeah.
And we had crazy weather, was about an inch diameter hail, lasts for about 10 seconds and then it goes away or whatever. But then some other really extreme sort of weather. So what I saw in this article, people trying to seed clouds. Have you heard of cloud seeding?
I've heard of cloud seeding, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, like they, send a plane up high and like it sprays a certain chemical that helps the moisture like condense faster, drop rain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's silver iodide. They use potassium iodide, dry ice. They say liquid propane. Some of those are common chemicals that they use. The use of hygroscopic materials such as table salt have become more popular. So you just throw some table salt up in the clouds and then you're good.
It's good for chasing off the devil and bringing rain.
Exactly. Well, allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
So this is my thought. That's one of the things that I thought of is people trying to control the weather.
Mm-hmm.
I think of sort of your situation like Jurassic Park. I mean, it's like, why are we trying to do this anyway? Because it is a larger system and we don't know how it's affecting other regions of the world.
Yeah.
And then also, there's a question of whether or not it's effective, and your scientific communities and 2-bit hustlers and other people say that there is scientific evidence to back this stuff up. I haven't really gone out of my way to look at it. It just seems like something that is beyond control, the weather.
Yeah.
Except Sean Connery in that one, in the Avengers movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That the Avengers movie. That's right.
Yeah, that Avengers movie.
Yeah.
The real Avengers movie, not the superhero one.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
You're speechless.
Ray Fiennes was in that, right?
Yeah, Ray Fiennes. Yeah, he was. What's his name? Steed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then who was Mrs. Peel? Was that Uma Thurman?
Uma Thurman. Yep.
Yeah,
Uma
okay.
Thurman,
wow.
With the big bad being Sean Connery.
The big guy being Sean Connery. Yeah, I could watch that movie again, maybe.
I was just thinking about it. It's just like, because I used to think that the style and the way that they solve their mysteries and the way that they, it had some sort of, it had some zhuzh to it.
I never watched any of the episodes of the original TV series, but,
I saw a few in syndication.
Or maybe I did see one, or, syndication. Yes. That lovely thing of television on the channel, the weird off channels, and you get to watch whatever old shows on. That was great.
Yeah, before that disappeared. I mean, and now you just have people paying for the rights to the shows on various streaming channels, I'm guessing.
Diana Rigg, that's who was on there, yeah.
Yes.
That was Mrs. Peel, yeah.
Yeah, also Mrs. Bond.
And Mrs. Bond at that one time, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was in the George Lazenby one, right?
Correct. Back to the weather. What are your thoughts on cloud seeding and things to control weather?
It seems a little desperate. I just, I don't, cloud seeding sounds kind of weird, but people just keep doing strange things to the world around them.
Also, it's like, well, you don't have any consideration for, I mean, like what you do, you have a limited amount of control. Like,
yeah,
in some water reservoirs, they've come up with this method to keep the water in there where they have the balls.
Yeah, the balls, the shade balls.
Yeah, that's something that definitely has an impact if the vapor is not going up. I just don't understand what is the purpose of seeding clouds if there's no definite evidence. How do you compare rainfall that's above normal, quote unquote? What are you comparing that to? Are you comparing that to an average? Are you comparing that to similar weather in another area? I don't understand how you would prove that these methods work.
Well, I think, yeah, the most you can do is show that they're, well, boy, you need to take a lot of data. That's all I can say. And considering the fact that weather prediction is very difficult anyway.
Yeah.
Right, like, you know, the 5, you know, once you go further than 5 days out, there's it's harder to really pinpoint things.
It would take an AI that kind of level of computation.
Yeah, and if you like get an AI to predict the weather, then the hands look weird. The weather god's hands are going to look weird. That's a joke about the AI created artwork. The hands always look super messed up. Or, oh my god, or when the AIs make little videos of people eating things, it's just like the most horrible thing ever. That shows you how little control we have.
Right.
The AIs can't even figure out how to make people look like they know how to eat in the pepperoni hug spot commercial.
Pictures where they don't have 6 knuckles.
6 knuckles on one finger. Yeah, this isn't the real AI problem.
What you're saying, or what we're saying, is you need a lot more analysis.
A lot more analysis, a lot more data.
To even prove. You're comparing it to the thing that is going to give you what you want as far as figures. You know what I mean? It's selective comparison.
Yeah, but you know, you're like, well, we're going to send the plane up and drop some silver iodide is because Iowa needs rain today, and then they do that, and then it rains today in Iowa. Like, was it not going to rain anyway?
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right?
That's there's too many factors in play to really get a concrete answer to that. And then yeah, it's just because the weather is so big, just like, and like, oh, this thing that's happening here, you know, it's going to have some sort of influence or effect on what's happening, you know, hundreds or thousands of miles away, you know, it's just, but we don't know exactly what that's going to be.
It's just too big, too vast, too many variables.
I mean, there's certain things. I think seeding the clouds is maybe less dumb than creating a giant space umbrella to cool the Earth down.
But not by much?
I don't know. A giant space umbrella sounds cool, but I mean, that's a much bigger scale project, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do know. I know that people are just going to make a mess.
We're going to do more harm than good, kind of thing.
Yeah, we're going to do more harm than good. But the thing you brought about the reservoirs, since those are like, you know, human created anyway, it's already messing with.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and by messing with, you know, there's lots of things that create lakes that may dam up rivers, you know. Some of them are beavers.
And that's the thing, too. You don't know what that's doing to nature. There are too many systems going on for us to say that one thing causes this other thing.
But I would say that I can look at some parts of systems and think, well, that's dumb. One of them is like, you know, the aqueduct that goes into Arizona from the Colorado River.
Right.
The Central Arizona Project. You know, basically they're sending water and they have to pump it uphill in several different spots. And it's going through some of the hottest desert in the country, and it's just open air. So the water's still okay when it gets to Phoenix, but then when it gets all the way down to Tucson, it is so like saline and hard that it was like in the mid 90s when the CAP finally got all the way down to Tucson. Like right. Phoenix had been using it for a while, and then Tucson got it and said, oh, this is great, we got a new water source, and the Tucson Water tested it out in a neighborhood. Well, they didn't really test it out, they just plugged it in. They said, oh, let's put it on this branch. And right away, the chemical difference in the water totally reacted with everybody's pipes.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody in that area literally had brown water. And so Tucson Water had to shut that down and replace everybody's pipes there. When you change water sources, it messes with the pipes.
The content of the water changes.
And because the pipes have like deposits in them or, that have built up over the years based on what the mineral content of the old water was, changing that releases all that stuff really quickly.
And if we can't figure that kind of stuff out...
We had a great case study that suddenly changing the water supply on pipes that have been there for a long time is a bad idea. And then, remember that thing that happened in Flint, Michigan, when they decided to switch their water source, and then that loosened up all the lead that was in the pipes? I was like, you didn't hear about this thing where another town tried that and it messed up the water? And that's the thing. I'm like, humans always messing up stuff.
Well, that's, messing stuff up that they don't quite understand.
Well, it's like on the one level, they're like, oh, there's a simple thing we can do that's going to change the, like, oh, we can do this. But they don't think through like the whole system, which I think that's like a nice analog to the cloud seeding thing. Is like, okay, you're doing this thing to influence the system, but what is it messing with?
What larger system that this smaller system is a part of is it impacting? And how is it impacting that larger system? I don't want to get too butterfly effect or anything, but I mean, there are those kinds of like, it's a chaotic system. Weather is a chaotic system, period in a sentence, right?
And it's been showing us lately, like, hey, weather's a big deal. Like, we went through several centuries of kind of cool and kind of calm weather. It's not so calm right now, and oh my God.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was the other thing that I think of is the whole cloud seeding. Is it a hoax? Is it real?
Is it effective? I think is.
That's it too. I mean, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Is the problem it's solving more important than the problem it's creating?
At some point, you don't know that. Did they know that this was going to happen? They probably wouldn't have done the cap water thing if they knew that they would have to replace all the pipes.
That was an unknown. But then the fact that another municipality thought, let's switch up our water source without thinking about, well, what's going to happen. I mean, I know what Tucson eventually did with the CAP was they send the CAP water to the recharge basins, and then it mixes with the groundwater, and then they pump it back up. They figured out a system that works better for that, but
than just using the cap water.
Yeah, they don't use it right away. They use it eventually, and I think Tucson probably does some smart stuff with the water actually now.
One last thing. This is kind of just an interesting factoid. They tried to do cloud seeding sort of things during the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing.
Oh, right. That totally sounds like that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
To coax rain showers out of the clouds before they reach the Olympic city.
That seems like that might be the application that kind of works. To get the rain out of the clouds before it gets where the event is.
But how important is that event?
I don't know.
I think the rain gives it charm too. But that's just me.
But the 2008 Olympics, that was neat. Yeah. China, they had to do a lot of stuff. They put the controls on who could drive in Beijing for a while.
Yeah.
Because when basically normal times, the amount of cars in Beijing, like the air pollution is terrible and you can't see through it. And they're like, oh, we're having an Olympics. We need to clean up the air. So they restricted who could drive for like a couple weeks before the Olympics started, just to make it so that you could see through the air in Beijing.
Yeah, that's another interesting sort of like thing to do to control.
Yeah, China's all about control. Ooh.
Yeah, well, I think most countries are.
I mean,
most governments. I mean, that's part of what governments try and do, right? They try and.
Do they try to control things or they try to manage things?
I think it's a little column A, a little column B.
Column A, column B. Yeah, there's some things they want to control and some things they just want to keep from getting out of control. And they always do.
Not to get too political.
They do. Yeah. Which is why I'm not on Twitter anymore.
Right.
Because they changed its name. That's why I'm not on Twitter anymore.
Yep, you're X because of X.
I can't find it.
What about control in video games? Do you have any video games you want to talk about that involve control that you think of?
Oh, man. I forgot that's part of the show, video games.
Yeah, that is part of the show.
It's totally a part of the show. So I would say, like, my neurology makes it really hard for me to do games where it's like real time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's like those things where you're setting up all your little workers to do the things, and then you got to go invade, like Starcraft. Like, I always thought that was like, I thought that was like a cool idea for a game. Yeah, I want to build up my Space Force. I want to go fight the alien things over there. But then all of a sudden I couldn't pay attention to everything, and it was too much. And
right.
Then it gets out. I think they make games do that on purpose anyway. They try to make them hard.
So there's a balance there.
There's a balance. But I'm like always better at turn-based games than at real-time ones. Because
Okay.
I need the extra thinking time.
Mm-hmm.
And real-time ones, they get out of control so fast for me.
That's not a problem for me. I've never really thought about that. Because for me, it's like, it's just part of the game, and that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's real-time or turn-based or whatever, I'm okay with it. Real-time, sometimes you can get too complex with games, though. That's true. The thing.
I think, and I think it was like, I think I'm more drawn to strategy games.
Uh-huh.
And that's where, like, when it's real time, it's like, oh shit, I need a pause for a second and slow down the alien onslaught.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas with turn-based games, you've got that built in.
We'll do okay with tower defense games. Those are all right.
Yeah, but that's a closed system. The tower defense game is real time.
It is real time, but you kind of know what's coming.
And you have to devise your strategy to keep them from an end point.
Yeah, you're like holding the line, so that's a little bit easier.
You might like 13 Sentinels, from this company that usually made side-scrolling, beat-em-up kind of games, and that's kind of like mixed with role-playing games. And then they came out with this 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim game, and it was essentially a visual novel kind of thing where you would play through different stories and some very, very minor puzzly elements. But the big part of the game was this tower defense style game where you had to protect different towers with different mechs and move them all over. And it was all like this really interesting vector graphics kind of presentation. Spoiler alert, you're all in a simulation anyway. You're on a ship. Yeah.
Your video game's actually a simulation?
Well, the game itself... Okay, so...
hold on. Is this one of those Inception things? We're going 3 dreams deep? What?
Not exactly. What it is it was a simulation that was designed for people to travel great distances. So they put their brains into the simulation. They're cloning people too. So it's like you don't want just a clone that has no experience or anything. You can't clone experiences. So what you do is you put them in something that is a simulation of life, and then they grow up as they're moving through the universe. And there's another thing where some other system tried to take over to destroy the humans, and Tokyo being destroyed by these machines. They're actual terraforming machines that it draws into the simulator because it knows what it's using those for when it gets to planets, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it is a tower defense game. I mean, that's what I would call it. But it tells the story through these 13 characters that you have to choose between. You've got 13 different characters you got to play through their story.
Oh, man. That's a lot of characters.
Hence 13 Sentinels. Great tower defense game, though. A lot of fun. So that's your thought on video games and control. Video
games and control. And the Atari control sucked.
I think that's a controller.
The controllers. The controllers sucked. Yeah, the video game controllers.
What was your problem with the Atari 2600 controller?
I wear them out all the time. That was the main problem.
Did you pull off the little rubber thing? I know sometimes people would pull back on the joystick so hard that they would pop
yeah,
the
those
rubber.
things would come off all. Yeah, that wasn't the problem. That was kind of fun. You just take it off, pop it back on. It was
right.
Very symbolic of something I didn't understand at the time. But and now I'm like, no, it's just a joystick.
It's just yes.
They call it a joystick because the early aviation pioneers were perverts. I don't know. I mean, why do they call it a joystick? Probably because gross reasons. But anyway,
we need to do a show on the word joystick. I mean, I need to do some research about it. I seriously, like, how the hell did that become a thing? But anyway,
we could do some research. It might be embarrassing, but you know,
we would do this for you, audience.
We would do it for the audience, yes. So like, subscribe, get that one extra listener, and we'll do an episode about joysticks.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. So if every listener gets one extra listener, and then they get another listener.
And so on.
And then in a linear progression.
That's what you think of control with video games as controllers.
Well, that's one thing that I think of is the controllers. Well, the Atari ones, they would just wear out.
Yeah.
I'd have to replace them all the time. But it was early home video game technology, and it's probably still a problem. You wear out your controller and you got to get a new one.
I think these days, mostly it's about drift, like the thumbstick drift. You know?
Oh, thumbstick drift. Yeah, see, we didn't have the thumbstick before.
No, you just had the joystick.
The joystick. Although, yeah, we're going to do an episode on all of that. That would be, talk about spicy.
Yeah, an eye-opening episode. One for, what is it, the Pulitzer Prize for journalism or something.
Yeah, Pulitzer has print journalism prizes, but I think the Peabody is the radio journalism stuff, and I think podcasts win Peabody sometimes.
Yeah, well, let's do that. Okay, so let's
go
for
a Peabody. We're going to do a show about joysticks, and we're going to win a Peabody.
Are you telling someone in your house? You're just telling Catherine.
Hey, Mom, we're doing a podcast about joysticks. We're going to get a Peabody. Yep.
All right.
That's comedy gold.
Comedy gold. Yep. So there's one last thing I wanted to talk about before we close out the show here. There's a game called Control. And it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that book where you had a person who was named Control, this game from a company called Remedy Entertainment. One of their more notable games that came out in 2019 is a game that's called Control. Did you ever watch the show Warehouse 13 that had all the weird objects? It's sort of a concept that Twilight Zone uses.
That sounds kind of like the television show, the Friday the 13th TV series.
Didn't they also have a television show that was Nightmare on Elm Street?
That was Freddy's Nightmares. Yeah, that actually... What was that? Because, like, Freddy Krueger was, like, the narrator. He was, like, the Rod Serling figure that introduced the story, and then it would be some little horror story, and then he'd close it out.
With a stupid pun of some sort.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with this game, you play a character named Jessie, and she is on sort of a hunt for her brother. She has some sort of a psychic connection to something. She has sort of an inner dialogue that she will, throughout the game, it sounds like she's talking to you, but she's talking to this entity that kind of follows with her. It's set within what's called the Oldest House, which is sort of a brutalist kind of skyscraper in New York City, where it's the headquarters of the FBC, which is the Federal Bureau of Control.
Yeah.
Yeah. They investigate this specific group of phenomena. They're called AWEs, which are altered world events.
This does sound like a total callback to that book I was talking about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And here's the other thing. You've got someone who's called the director, and that director has to basically make a connection with what's called the board. It's a psychic connection, and the board is always talking to you when you are doing certain tasks throughout the game, but it speaks in broken language that sounds like it's not quite translated properly. It's like it's saying things that sort of fit. It's very interesting what they do with this quote unquote the board. But anyway, so Jessie walks in, she's looking for her brother, and she finds the director dead on the floor. He just shot himself right before you got there. Like, you hear the bullet, and then he's on the floor. And then you pick up that weapon, and you're connected to the board. And they say, you're the new director. So now she is the director of the Federal Bureau of Control.
Yeah.
And this oldest house, it also has an interesting feature where it reconfigures itself to basically house certain things. So it constantly is in a changing sort of state. So what she's trying to do is, one of the events that's occurring in the Bureau of Control is this invasion of these otherworldly beings called the Hiss. And she's trying to figure out what's happening there. And there are all sorts of psychic powers. The gun that she has is kind of a morphing sort of gun that changes to fit whatever situation she wants it to. Like, if she wants to do something that's more like a shotgun, she just thinks about it, reconfigures it, and different guns, right? So that's her service weapon, being the director of the Federal Bureau of Control. It's an interesting story because apparently who summoned you to the Bureau of Control is this janitor. And so the janitor tells you that you're there for the assistant janitor position. His name is Ati. And as it turns out, he's some sort of other entity. One of the expansions that they came out with was called the AWE, which everyone thought was the Alan Wake expansion. Alan Wake is a game where you play as an author, and this was like longer ago. I think came out in 2010. You have this flashlight. You have to strip the evil shadow from whatever the thing is before you can actually shoot it. In the game Control, they established that that's a connected universe. The game that's coming out now, that I'm interested in playing at PAX, is Alan Wake 2. And Alan Wake 2 is due out in October. What you do in the Alan Wake 2 game is Alan Wake went missing, and he's in some sort of alternate universe where he is writing and you're playing the character that he's writing about. So you are the character Saga. She is, and it goes between the Alan and Saga, but he's trying to write himself out of this alternate universe. Very interesting kind of a story that sounds like it could be cool. And I don't know if Jessie from Control is going to make an appearance in this, or if these characters are going to make an appearance in Control 2. The premise of Alan Wake 2 is 13 years after best-selling horror writer Alan Wake went missing, a string of ritualistic murders occurs in the town of Bright Falls, Washington. Saga Anderson is an FBI agent sent to Bright Falls to investigate the killings, where she finds herself tangled in a supernatural horror story written by Wake in order to escape from his captivity. Any thoughts on that?
Okay. Sounds kind of Stephen King-like.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But it also fits into these altered world events.
Oh, yeah, it does too, yeah. Altered world events.
From the Control game.
Right.
It's not something that I think that you will be playing.
Maybe not.
I don't think. If you went into a building and just by going to that building and picking something up, you became the director of the FBI, would you do that intentionally or no?
Would I intentionally randomly go into a building?
And pick something up?
And pick something up?
And become the head of the FBI?
A lot of variables in that scenario that
almost like seeding clouds
outside of my control.
So there's no sense in even thinking about it.
You can't even plan for that. No, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, but if it happened, I'd be like, hey, can you be in charge of the FBI now? And I'll be like, what in the name of Alias is going on here?
Well, last thoughts on the word control. What do you say? Or are those your last thoughts on the word control? You wouldn't be the FBI agent for J.J. Abrams?
It would not be J.J. Abrams' FBI agent because I think he just makes things up as he goes along.
Okay.
But
I think pretty much everyone does, right?
Yeah, sort of. Well, I do. Yeah, that's for sure. But no, I got an endpoint in sight usually when I start out a big project.
A project that you work on is in your control. Absolutely in your control, whether you do it or not.
What the studio executives tell you to do, not in your control.
Exactly. What's that watermelon in the vice doing there?
Yeah, the watermelon in the vice. That is that's a test for who's got control.
That is exactly what that was put there for, too. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Buckaroo Banzai.
The audience may not know, but
the audience needs to go watch Buckaroo Banzai. They want to borrow my DVD. I'll email it to them.
But anyway, control, as you were saying, before I so rudely interrupted you.
No, control is... Yeah, I think like the most important part is figuring out how to have control over yourself, but also be able to accept that you don't always have control over yourself. And if you can't even have control over yourself, you sure can't have control over other people. You can have influence.
But influence is not control.
It's not control.
Control what you can.
Okay, figure out what you can control. Focus on that. Don't worry too much about what you can't control because...
You can't control it, by definition.
Be like, okay, I can do this. And then if something unexpected comes out, you figure out, okay, well, what can I do now? And can I pivot? And can I... Yeah, that's how you maintain control of your life, is by accepting that there are variables outside your control. And
right.
You can try to prepare yourself and be ready to react, but like don't take it personal when the 1-inch size hail comes down.
Right, exactly. It's beyond your control.
Beyond your control. Nobody's doing that to you on purpose.
That's a very important thing to remember, is the things you can control, but also trying to control a situation that hasn't happened yet is an exercise in futility. So don't do that.
No.
Focus on now what you can control.
Control. Like, I'm going to plant a tree. That's what I want to do.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean,
I'm going to go to a nerdy festival.
You're going to go to a nerdy festival. I wanted to make a comic book, so I did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to put it in stores.
You can buy it at partlyroboindustries.com, right?
It's just partlyrobot.com, yeah.
Partlyrobot.com.
I don't have the comic listed on the web store yet. Maybe I will by the time this gets out, because I forgot. We're speaking to people in the future right now.
Correct. We're time travelers.
We're time traveling. It is no longer August 9th.
It is on your Etsy, right?
It'll be on my Etsy. It costs 20 cents to list an item on Etsy.
I did not know that.
They charge it ahead of time, and then if nobody buys it for like 6 months and you want to relist it, they charge you 20 cents again. But if someone does buy it before then and you want to relist it, they'll keep charging it. They'll charge you 20 cents that time too.
Okay, so they just keep on charging you 20 cents.
Etsy charges you 20 cents a lot of times, and then when you sell something, then they take a percentage too. So
okay.
But I'm not saying it's like they're still probably pretty fair, but it just costs money to do things.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
They're providing a platform. You could do your web store on a different platform and, pay $50 a month up front to list everything, and they still take a percentage.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm not dissing Etsy. It's just funny.
Okay. Well, you will have your zine up there at some point.
I will have my zine up there. Yeah. At some point in the future, which is when listeners will be listening to this. So if you like shopping on Etsy, you could go and look for Partly Robot there.
Check out Andrew's stuff.
And then I got the other web store on Big Cartel, but I might put it there too.
Okay.
Yeah, on Big Cartel, this is the funny thing. You can list 5 things for free on Big Cartel.
Okay.
But once you go beyond 5, then you got to pay for a monthly fee.
Oh, can you swap out things? Can you like say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do this?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Is it cheaper than Etsy?
It's probably the same once you figure everything. But Big Cartel is kind of cool because like they'll take care of sales tax for you for the sales in places, because the states, they want their sales tax.
Right.
So like they'll handle it. And so if there's any tax fraud going on, it's Big Cartel's fault.
Okay.
Not my fault. I thought they were doing it. They told me they were doing it. So if they didn't do it, they're the liars. I have no control over that. There's lots of like persnickety things about e-commerce. But if you're small potatoes, you don't have a lot to worry about. It's when you're medium potatoes that they'll come for you.
Yeah, medium potatoes. That's it. Don't be medium potatoes.
Don't be you either be small potatoes or big potatoes. But when you're medium potatoes, that's when you get screwed. If you're small potatoes, you're not worth their time. But if you're a big potato, then you're too big to fail, and they give you a lot of tax breaks. I don't know. That's America, folks.
Yeah, that sounds like your dad, right?
Yeah, it does sound like my dad. He says a lot of random stupid stuff and makes weird metaphors about potatoes. And speaking of potatoes, what finer potato product than
Pringles?
A scorching spicy stew Pringle.
Flamin' medium.
A flamin' medium Minecraft Pringle.
So you can finish those later. Have a snack.
I got a snack. All right. And you're going to go to the big show in Las Vegas. Seattle. It's Seattle, right?
Seattle. It's going to be fun. 4 days there. Going to have a lot of fun. So.
All right. That sounds awesome.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us on this episode of the Too Vague Podcast. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I love doing it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Let's do another word.
Yeah, joystick.
Joystick. That's right. We're going to get a Peabody.
We're going to get a Peabody.
For our joystick reporting.
Exactly. Hard-hitting
joystick investigation.
But anyway, thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Too Vague Podcast. My name is Ben.
My name's Andrew.
And we've been your hosts. Have a wonderful night. Bye.
All right, later, folks.
Joystick.